Welcome to another episode of Management Unplugged by GR. In this deep dive, we're plunging into a topic that touches every single one of us. I mean, whether we're at a desk, on a factory floor, or even just working from home these days. We're talking about the world of safety, health, and risk management at the workplace.
Yeah, it's absolutely everywhere.
And this isn't just about, rules and regulations, hard hats, safety signs, that kind of surface stuff. No, this is about leadership, it's about culture, and frankly, just good old common sense sometimes. We'll be exploring why safety is actually a core business priority, what causes accidents in the first place, and how we can genuinely prevent them. We'll delve into how to get everyone on board, really engaged, and even tackle some maybe less obvious risks like stress and burnout, which are huge today. Plus, we'll explore the crucial roles HR and supervisors play in making a real difference on the ground.
And what's really interesting, I think, is how the sources emphasize that safety isn't merely about compliance. It's not just ticking boxes. It's about a really foundational shift in how we view the workplace altogether. It's much more about proactive care, getting ahead of things, not just reactive fixes after an incident happens.
Yeah.
So we're going to unpack the multi-layered approach that's really required to build a truly safe and healthy environment, going way beyond just meeting the minimum legal standards.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's get into why this isn't just some dry compliance topic, but one that has really profound human and frankly business implications for you, whether you're leading a team or just starting out in your career. So let's kick things off right at the beginning. When we talk about workplace safety, why should organizations, why should you listening care about it beyond just, meeting the legal requirements? Our sources are pretty clear it's a managerial priority. But what does that actually mean in practice, day to day?
Well, it means thinking about safety not just as an administrative task or a cost center, but really as a strategic imperative, something central to how the business runs. The sources are very clear. Workplace safety isn't simply a legal necessity, something you do just to avoid getting fined. It genuinely is a core managerial priority that can actually drive success. And that shift in perspective, it's absolutely critical because a strong safety culture, it doesn't just protect employees from physical harm, which is, of course, paramount, that's the main goal, but it also significantly boosts morale right across the workforce. Think about it. When employees feel genuinely cared for, protected, they feel safer, obviously, but also less anxious. They trust their employer more. They become more positive, more committed.
Right. It creates a better atmosphere overall.
Exactly. And that positive environment then ripples out. It leads to higher productivity. I mean, employees who are focused on their tasks rather than worrying about potential hazards, they're just naturally more efficient, more innovative even, and importantly, it really bolsters the company's brand reputation. Well, a company known for prioritizing its employees' well-being, that becomes an employer of choice, right? It helps to attract top talent, especially in a competitive market. And at the same time, it builds immense trust with customers, with the wider community. So this whole perspective reframes safety. It stops being just a burdensome cost and starts looking like a vital strategic investment that actually yields tangible returns.
That's a powerful reframing an investment, not just an expense. I like that. But is this just, a nice idea discussed in boardrooms, or are there actual tangible examples where companies have really seen this pay off in the real world?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just theory. We see this demonstrated by major companies like L&T, ABB Inc., and Georgia Pacific. They're highlighted in our sources. These organizations have successfully linked safety directly to accountability, and not just in one department, but right across their entire operational structure.
So accountability is key here.
It is. And this isn't about, superficial programs or giving out awards for zero incidents, which frankly can sometimes be misleading if they discourage people from reporting near misses or small issues. No. Instead, it's about systematically embedding safety metrics into performance reviews for managers, for employees alike, ensuring that leaders are explicitly held responsible for the safety outcomes of their teams. It means making safety a non-negotiable part of every process, every design decision, every single daily operation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like a production manager's bonus might be directly tied not just to their output targets, but also to their department's safety record. Lost time incidents, maybe adherence to procedures. When accountability for safety is clear, consistent, and genuinely enforced from the top down, the outcomes across the board, we're talking operational efficiency, product quality, employee retention, even overall financial performance, they visibly improve. So yeah, this isn't just theory. It's proven business success that generates significant dividends directly impacting your bottom line.
Stepping back a bit, the broader implication is clear then. It really is about the bottom line, too. We often hear about the cost of implementing safety measures, but what about the flip side? The immense cost of neglecting safety. The consequences of getting it wrong can be truly staggering, can't they? And not just in financial terms.
Absolutely. Considering the wider context, it's really about creating a sustainable, ethical business, one that actively works to avoid catastrophic failures, not just minor bumps and bruises. The BP case, I mean, specifically, there are numerous disasters like the Texas City refinery explosion or, of course, Deepwater Horizon. That serves as a stark, frankly horrifying reminder of the immense costs incurred when process safety is fundamentally neglected.
And those costs go way beyond money, right?
Way beyond. I mean, yes, the financial costs are staggering, billions in fines, compensation for victims, huge cleanup efforts that can span decades. But more profoundly, they come at the cost of human lives, devastating families, communities. They cause immense environmental damage, and they inflict long-term, maybe even irreparable damage to a brand's reputation and trustworthiness. I mean, incidents like that erode public trust, investor confidence. It makes it incredibly difficult for a company to operate effectively afterwards.
Yeah, the reputational hit alone can be crippling.
Exactly. So this really underscores the absolute necessity for long-term, consistent, deeply embedded safety investments and genuine employee empowerment, too. It has to go far beyond just surface-level training or reactive measures put in place after something bad happens. It's about foresight, integrity, a real commitment, not just keeping up appearances for compliance.
Speaking of compliance and legal necessities, what's the landscape actually like when it comes to the laws and standards governing workplace safety? Is this something companies can just sort of opt into, or are there mandates they absolutely must follow?
Oh, it's definitely a mandate. There's a foundational legal framework that sets the absolute minimum baseline for acceptable safety practices. You don't really get a choice. In the U.S., for instance, you've got OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. That's the main federal agency. They set enforceable standards, which means businesses must comply. Employers are strictly required to maintain detailed records of injuries and illnesses, report severe incidents like fatalities or multiple hospitalizations within very strict timelines. And fundamentally, they have to ensure their workplaces are free from recognized hazards that could cause death or serious physical harm. These are non-negotiables.
And is it similar in other places? Our sources mention India specifically.
Yes, quite similar in principle, though the specific laws differ. Our sources highlight that in India you have robust legal frameworks tailored to their industrial landscape. This includes things like the Factories Act of 1948 and the Mines Act of 1952. These acts provide specific, detailed safety provisions for workers in various sectors. They require things like regular government inspections, the mandatory appointment of dedicated safety officers within companies, and the establishment of support infrastructure like welfare facilities, first aid, things like that to ensure worker well-being. So yeah, these aren't just guidelines or suggestions, they're legal requirements with significant penalties if you don't comply. They ensure a basic level of protection for you and your colleagues.
Okay, so it's not just a suggestion, it's a mandate backed by real legal authority. But here's the question. Is merely complying with these laws, just ticking those boxes, is that enough to build a truly safe environment? Or is there something more proactive needed to reach, top-tier safety performance?
That brings up a really crucial point. While these legal frameworks certainly set a vital baseline, an absolutely essential minimum standard, true safety excellence genuinely goes far beyond mere compliance. Compliance alone, it's often a reactive stance, right?
Yeah.
You do what the law requires, maybe primarily to avoid penalties or lawsuits.
You're just doing the minimum.
Exactly. But building a deeply embedded, proactive safety culture, that's a continuous effort. It never really stops. The Carter Cleaning Company case study, although it's only mentioned briefly in our sources, it serves as a great illustration. It shows the common challenges that smaller firms often face in implementing structured, comprehensive safety programs. It really highlights that just adhering to the letter of the law isn't sufficient. You need to actively build safety into the organizational culture itself, make it an inherent part of how work gets done every day, rather than just treating it as, a legal add-on or a checklist item you deal with once a year.
Because just meeting the bare minimum probably means you're still vulnerable.
Precisely. It often means you're just one step away from a potential incident. Because the underlying proactive culture, the one that champions continuous improvement, that encourages employee participation, that fosters open reporting that isn't firmly in place, it's really the difference between doing what you have to do legally and doing what's genuinely right for your people and ultimately for the long-term health of your business.
Okay, so if we're going to prevent accidents, we first have to really understand them, right? It's almost like being a detective, looking for the underlying causes, the root issues. What do our sources tell us about the fundamental causes of workplace incidents? Are they always obvious, like a faulty machine? Or is there usually more going on beneath the surface?
Oh, they're rarely as simple as they might appear on the surface. Often there's a complex interplay of factors involved. Our sources consistently point out that workplace accidents primarily stem from two fundamental categories. You've got unsafe conditions and unsafe acts. Think of them as two interconnected pathways that can lead to an incident. And quite often, they actually converge to create the risk.
Okay, so conditions and acts. Let's break those down. What are unsafe conditions?
Unsafe conditions are the tangible environmental factors within the workplace itself. These are physical aspects that can increase the likelihood of an accident happening. Examples would be things like poor machine guarding, where a piece of equipment doesn't have adequate protective barriers around its moving parts, making it easy for someone to accidentally come into contact with gears or blades, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can picture that.
Or inadequate ventilation, maybe in an area where there are hazardous fumes or dust that could lead to respiratory problems for workers, or even create an explosive atmosphere over time if it's not managed. Long working hours also fall into this category, surprisingly perhaps, because they contribute to severe employee fatigue.
Right, fatigue is a big one.
A huge one. It significantly decreases alertness, judgment, reaction time, dramatically increasing the risk of errors. Then you have faulty equipment that might malfunction unexpectedly, like a worn-out ladder, a defective power tool, maybe a frayed electrical cable. And even just cluttered workspaces, blocked aisles, spilled materials, they create tripping, slipping, or falling hazards. So these are the physical, structural, or environmental realities of the work environment that, if they're not addressed, pose inherent risks to you and everyone working there.
Okay, so it's not just about a machine breaking down suddenly or a slippery floor, but also about how people interact with that machine or how the environment around them is managed, even down to how many hours they're being asked to work.
Precisely. And that leads us directly to the second category,
Right.
unsafe acts. These are behaviors, or sometimes omissions, things people don't do, related to individual choices, actions, and sometimes just a critical lack of awareness. These directly contribute to incidents.
So this is the human element.
Exactly. It encompasses things like human error, which could be a momentary lapse in judgment, a misstep, maybe a simple mistake due to distraction or miscommunication. Happens to everyone. Then there's negligence, which implies more of a lack of care or attention, where someone fails to perform a duty diligently or maybe takes an unnecessary avoidable risk they really should have recognized. A blatant disregard for established procedures is another significant unsafe act. Maybe due to perceived time pressures, got to get this done quick, or maybe overconfidence in their own abilities, or sometimes just habitual noncompliance because, that's how we've always done it around here.
Yeah, that last one is dangerous.
Very. Inadequate training is also a major factor, where an employee simply doesn't know the correct or the safest way to perform a task, maybe leading to improper use of tools or equipment. And even just a general lack of awareness, where individuals might not recognize a hazard despite it being right there in front of them. They just don't perceive the risk involved in their actions. So while conditions are about the physical environment, unsafe acts are really about the human element within that environment and how people behave within it.
It seems like they often go hand in hand, don't they? An unsafe act combined with an unsafe condition.
That's what's particularly compelling here, the critical dual nature of these causes. You're absolutely right. Accidents are rarely just one or the other in isolation. They're often a complex combination where an unsafe act interacts with an unsafe condition to create the perfect storm, so to speak. And this is exactly where supervisors truly come into their own. They play such a key, pivotal role in identifying both types of risks. They need to spot the unsafe conditions that might exist in their immediate work area and the unsafe behaviors they observe in their team members.
Because they're right there on the front lines.
Exactly. They're on the front lines, observing, coaching, influencing daily behaviors. They can spot that cluttered aisle you mentioned. They can notice an employee bypassing a safety guard, maybe habitually. They can recognize signs of fatigue in a worker before it becomes a major problem. The new Safety and Health Program case study from our sources, for instance, it specifically prompts discussion on how to identify and address these behavior-linked accidents. It really explores how systematic screening processes during hiring, maybe like aptitude tests that assess risk perception, could potentially help identify individuals with a greater propensity for risk-taking. And also how thorough ongoing training can be incredibly effective in shaping safer work habits right from the start and then reinforcing them consistently over time. It's all about building a proactive behavioral safety foundation for everyone involved.
Okay, so once we understand the causes these conditions and acts, how do we actually prevent these incidents from happening in the first place? It sounds like it requires a really multifaceted and very intentional approach. Rather than just, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, our sources certainly seem to offer a wealth of effective strategies.
Indeed, they do. And the approach is definitely two-pronged, as you would expect, directly addressing both the unsafe conditions and the unsafe acts we just discussed. Accident prevention fundamentally requires simultaneously reducing those unsafe conditions while also curbing the unsafe acts. And you do that through a combination of things: engineering controls, administrative policies, behavioral reinforcement. It's a mix.
Okay, let's tackle the conditions first. How do you reduce those?
To reduce unsafe conditions, it really comes down to rigorous, systematic attention to the physical environment and the operational processes. This means implementing regular safety audits, and I don't just mean a single annual checkup. I mean ongoing, systemic evaluations of equipment, machinery, procedures, facilities. Really looking proactively to identify potential hazards before they can cause an incident.
So, finding problems before they find you.
Exactly. An audit might uncover, say, a machine that needs updated guarding, or maybe a process that generates excessive noise requiring sound dampening measures. It also involves rigorous hazard analysis. This is a systematic process of breaking down tasks, processes, work environments to foresee and mitigate risks before work even starts. This could involve techniques like job hazard analysis, or JHA. That's a meticulous process where each step of a specific task is systematically analyzed for potential dangers, and then corresponding controls are identified to eliminate or reduce those risks.
So, really detailed planning. Very detailed. And of course, proper maintenance is absolutely critical. Ensuring machinery is well kept, tools are in good repair, all systems are functioning optimally. This prevents failures that could lead to accidents, like a faulty electrical connection causing a fire, or a worn-out conveyor belt snapping. This comprehensive focus on the physical environment, keeping it safe and compliant, it's absolutely foundational.
Okay, that covers the condition side, and then there's the human side, curbing those unsafe acts. How do you tackle that effectively? It sounds like it goes way beyond just telling people to be careful and hoping they listen.
Oh, it absolutely does. Be careful is probably the least effective safety advice ever given. Curbing unsafe acts requires a much more multifaceted focus on human behavior and skill development. This means implementing comprehensive training programs. And again, not just a one-time onboarding session, but ongoing, tailored training that covers specific risks relevant to the job, proper operational procedures, the correct use of safety equipment, PPE, and effective emergency responses.
So training needs to be continuous. Continuous and specific. For example, specific training on handling hazardous materials if that's relevant, or operating complex machinery safely, or even just proper lifting techniques to prevent back injuries. Consistent supervision is also paramount. Supervisors aren't just there to oversee tasks, they're there to observe, to correct unsafe behaviors immediately and constructively, coach employees on safer methods, and reinforce correct procedures daily through their presence and guidance.
So they're coaches as much as bosses.
In a good safety culture, absolutely. And finally, strong motivation. This can come from various sources: a clear understanding of why safety is important for their own well-being and that of their colleagues, a sense of ownership over safety processes, and appropriate recognition for consistently safe behaviors.
Our sources mention some specific tools used here, like safety posters. Do those actually work?
Well, the sources do mention tools like safety posters. They can maybe raise some awareness and serve as visual reminders, but frankly, they're often pretty superficial and largely ineffective if they aren't backed up by deeper organizational commitment and actual follow-through. A poster alone doesn't change behavior.
Right, just background noise after a while.
Exactly. What's far more impactful are things like sophisticated behavior-based safety systems, which we can dive into a bit more later, but they essentially focus on observing and reinforcing safe behaviors through structured feedback and positive reinforcement. And critically, maybe the most important tool of all is that unwavering top-down commitment from leadership.
We keep coming back to leadership.
Because it's crucial. Without leaders visibly championing safety, consistently allocating the necessary resources, time, money, people, actively participating in safety initiatives themselves, and holding everyone, including themselves, accountable for safety outcomes. Without that, even the best systems and training can ultimately fall short. They just get seen as mere formalities, management's latest initiative, rather than genuine priorities for you and the whole organization.
That makes me wonder, though, how do you ensure these measures, the audits, the training, the leadership messages, how do you make sure they're not just check boxes to satisfy an auditor, but are truly integrated into the daily fabric of the organization? Because it seems like you can have all the right pieces on the board, but if they don't fit together or aren't used consistently, it's not really effective, is it?
That's precisely the challenge, isn't it? And it's the core of building a mature, effective safety culture. The source material strongly implies that without that unwavering top-down commitment we just talked about, and without integrating safety deeply into daily operations and decision-making, even the most meticulously designed systems and procedures can just wither on the vine. It's really about building a framework where safety isn't just a rule to be followed or a program to be implemented periodically. It has to be a core organizational value, something that is actively sought out, discussed openly, and continuously reinforced at every level, in every single task.
So it has to be part of the normal conversation?
Exactly. Leaders must not only articulate the importance of safety through policies and statements, but they have to embody it through their own actions. They need to dedicate the necessary financial and human resources to it consistently. And they have to hold themselves and others genuinely accountable for safety performance. It's about creating an environment where employees feel empowered and safe to identify risks, report concerns without any fear of reprisal, and actively participate in finding solutions. When safety is truly integrated like that, it becomes part of the daily conversation. It's part of problem-solving meetings. It's part of how success itself is defined, not just something that gets brought up during an incident investigation after the fact.
Okay, so we've got the laws, we understand the causes, conditions, and acts, we have strategies for prevention. But as you've hinted, none of that truly works without the people, without you listening, being involved. How do we genuinely engage employees in safety? How do we make it feel like their personal responsibility, too, rather than just something mandated by management from on high?
That really is the crux of a truly effective and, more importantly, sustainable safety program. Employee engagement is described by our sources as a powerful safety tool for a very good reason. It fundamentally shifts safety from being a top-down mandate, something that's done to employees, to becoming a shared responsibility, something that's genuinely owned by them.
So moving from passive compliance to active ownership.
Precisely. When employees feel genuinely engaged and empowered, they transition from being just passive recipients of rules to becoming active participants in creating and maintaining a safe environment. This means they're not just following rules because they have to, but because they understand and value the why behind them. They see the benefit for themselves and their colleagues. They become much more likely to proactively identify hazards nobody else has spotted, suggest practical improvements based on their direct experience, consistently adhere to protocols even when no one is watching, and even, sometimes, gently correct unsafe behaviors they see in their peers. Because they feel a personal stake in the collective well-being and understand the impact safety has on everyone.
That makes complete sense. When people feel that sense of ownership, they're inherently more invested, more vigilant. Do we have examples of companies that have successfully leveraged this kind of engagement to significantly improve their safety record?
Oh, absolutely. Milliken & Company is often cited, and it serves as a prime example highlighted in our sources. They have consistently demonstrated over many years that by truly empowering their employees to genuinely own safety, they achieve significant and sustained reductions in injuries, far beyond what compliance alone could achieve.
And how do they do that? Is it just about having a suggestion box?
No, it's much deeper than that. It isn't just about a suggestion box or a general call for vigilance. It's about systematically embedding safety responsibility and, crucially, decision-making authority throughout the entire workforce. For instance, what really seems to set Milliken apart is their relentless focus on identifying and celebrating safe choices in real time, even minor ones, making safety a daily positive habit, not just a reactive measure when something goes wrong. This approach recognizes something fundamental. The people on the front line, the ones performing the tasks every single day, they often have the most valuable insights into potential hazards, practical solutions that will actually work, and effective ways to implement safety procedures in the real world, not just on paper.
Tapping into that frontline expertise.
Exactly. By tapping into their expertise, companies like Milliken harness the collective intelligence of their entire workforce for continuous improvement and build a much stronger, more resilient safety culture for everyone.
So what are the mechanisms? How do you actually foster that kind of effective engagement? It can't just be wishing it would happen.
No, definitely not. What's compelling here is how effective engagement involves specific, tangible mechanisms, not just a vague feeling of empowerment. Our sources point to several key components. First, providing clear and accessible feedback channels. This means employees have readily available, trusted ways to report hazards, suggest improvements, or voice concerns about safety without any fear of reprisal or blame. That fear factor is critical to eliminate.
So psychological safety is important here too.
Absolutely essential.
Hmm.
This could be through anonymous reporting systems, maybe dedicated employee-led safety committees, or just direct lines of communication to management that are genuinely responsive. People need to see that their input is valued and acted upon. Second, offering meaningful recognition for safe practices. And this isn't just about catching people doing something wrong, the gotcha moments. It's about proactively acknowledging and rewarding individuals and teams for consistently following safety procedures, for identifying new risks, or for actively participating in safety initiatives. Positive reinforcement works.
Rewarding the right behaviors.
Exactly. And crucially, it involves directly involving employees in the actual safety planning and decision-making processes, not just informing them after the fact. This is going to mean establishing employee-led safety committees that actively help shape policies, inviting their input when developing new procedures or revising existing ones, or having them participate directly in accident investigations, not to assign blame, but to genuinely learn from the root causes. It's really about giving them a genuine voice and a real impactful role in shaping their own safe environment. That's what builds deep trust and commitment.
Okay, so when we typically think of workplace safety, we often picture those immediate physical dangers, right? Falling objects, machinery hazards, slips, trips, falls, the obvious stuff. But our sources broaden that scope quite significantly to include health hazards. And that includes things like stress and burnout, which might not seem like traditional safety issues. Let's start with managing those broader, often less visible health hazards. What exactly are we talking about here beyond the immediate physical risks?
Yeah, it's vital to recognize that health hazards extend far beyond that immediate physical harm. They can have really long-term, sometimes insidious effects on employee well-being. They can potentially cause chronic illness or impairment over many years. Our sources detail a pretty broad range of these. It definitely includes chemical exposure, where workers might be handling substances like solvents, cleaning agents, industrial chemicals. Without proper controls, these could lead to acute issues like skin burns or respiratory irritation, or much worse, long-term diseases such as certain cancers.
Right, things that build up over time.
Exactly. Noise pollution is another significant hazard, particularly in industrial or construction settings. It can cause permanent hearing damage, often very gradually, so the individual might not even realize it's happening till it's too late. Ergonomic risks are also critical and increasingly recognized. These relate to the design of workspaces, tools, tasks, things that can lead to musculoskeletal injuries, like carpal tunnel syndrome from repetitive motions, back strain from improper lifting techniques, or neck and shoulder pain from a poorly set up workstation.
Things many office workers experience too.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, stress and substance abuse are also now increasingly classified as significant workplace health hazards. They impact both mental and physical well-being and can lead to a whole cascade of negative effects on individuals and ultimately the organization.
So, how do companies address such a diverse range of health hazards? What are the strategies?
Our sources outline several comprehensive mitigation strategies. Industrial hygiene practices are really key for things like chemical and noise exposure. This involves systematically monitoring and controlling exposure to various hazards, checking air quality, chemical concentrations, noise levels, radiation, whatever is relevant to ensure they remain within safe, acceptable limits. This might involve using specialized sensors to detect airborne chemicals, for example, or implementing specific noise-dampening materials in loud areas to bring levels down.
What about things like substance abuse?
Well, clear drug and alcohol policies are absolutely essential there. To manage substance abuse risks in the workplace, you need clear expectations for a drug-free environment. But often, good policies also provide support resources for employees who might be struggling with addiction, linking them to help rather than just being purely punitive.
And wellness programs, are they part of this?
Yes, increasingly so. Comprehensive wellness programs are becoming more important. These can include a really wide range of initiatives promoting physical activity, healthy eating, providing mental health support services, offering stress management resources like mindfulness training, and even chronic disease management programs to help you, the employee, manage your overall health proactively.
So it really is about protecting the whole person, isn't it? Their long-term health and well-being, not just preventing a visible injury in the moment. It's a much more holistic view of workplace well-being.
Absolutely. Looking at the overall landscape, it becomes really clear that transparent, consistent communication about all these diverse health risks, combined with robust, accessible support systems, are absolutely key to improving outcomes. It's just not enough to simply identify a hazard on a checklist. You need a system in place to effectively manage its impact and provide compassionate, non-judgmental support to those who are affected.
So support is crucial.
Crucial. This means proactive education on health risks, making resources like employee assistance programs, EAPs, easily accessible for mental health and substance abuse issues, and really fostering a culture that encourages employees to seek help and report health concerns without any fear of stigma or negative repercussions. It's about creating a comprehensive safety net for holistic well-being, recognizing that a healthy employee is fundamentally a productive and safe employee.
Okay, and then there's the big one that seems to dominate so many conversations in our modern world. Stress and burnout. It feels like everyone is talking about these days across pretty much all industries. Why are these now considered part of risk management? And what concrete actions can actually be done about them in the workplace? Because let's be honest, many workplaces still seem to view stress as a personal weakness rather than an organizational risk. How do you shift that deeply ingrained perception?
Yeah, that perception shift is tough but vital. Stress and burnout are absolutely critical components of risk management because work-related stress, especially when it becomes chronic and leads to burnout, doesn't just affect an individual's personal well-being. It actively lowers performance, it decreases productivity, and it severely endangers both physical and mental health over time.
What kind of health impacts are we talking about?
Well, chronic stress can lead to a whole host of physical ailments, things like heart disease, weakened immune systems, digestive issues. And on the mental health side, it's strongly linked to anxiety, depression, and even cognitive impairment, difficulty concentrating, making decisions. From an organizational perspective, this translates directly into significant risks. You see increased absenteeism due to illness, higher employee turnover as people just leave to find healthier environments, reduced quality of work, diminished creativity and innovation, and even higher incident rates because stressed, burnt-out people might have impaired judgment, lack focus, or be more irritable, leading to mistakes or conflicts.
So it hits the bottom line too.
Directly. It's a profound risk to both the individual's long-term health and the organization's bottom line and overall sustainability.
Okay, so it's a real risk. What are the concrete, actionable solutions our sources suggest for dealing with these pervasive issues?
Well, several things come up. First, workload balance and setting reasonable expectations. That sounds simple, but it's crucial. It involves systematically ensuring employees aren't consistently overwhelmed by impossible demands, making sure deadlines are realistic, and training managers to actually monitor and respond to their team's capacity, preventing that chronic overwork culture. Second, transparent and supportive leadership makes a huge difference. Leaders who communicate openly, especially during times of change, who provide constructive feedback, offer genuine encouragement, and show empathy that can significantly reduce feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, and isolation among their teams.
Leadership again?
Always. Third, fair HR practices are essential. This includes well-defined, equitable performance management systems, ones that don't arbitrarily penalize employees for perceived shortfalls during periods of high stress. It also includes effective conflict resolution mechanisms that address workplace disputes fairly and promptly, preventing that corrosive interpersonal stress from festering. And finally, it's about actively cultivating a truly supportive and empathetic work environment, a place where employees feel valued, heard, and crucially, feel that it's okay to ask for help or admit they're struggling without judgment or negative consequences. These elements, when put together, collectively build a powerful organizational buffer against the devastating effects of stress and burnout for you and your colleagues.
But given that stress is so subjective, so personal, it almost feels like trying to catch smoke sometimes. How do companies even begin to effectively measure and then address something so intangible?
That's the challenge, absolutely. And the source material implies that because stress is so subjective and multifaceted, you can't just isolate one factor and fix it. It requires a really holistic approach, looking beyond individual symptoms to the systemic causes within the organization. Organizations need to consider the combined impact of things like workload demands, the style and transparency of leadership, the level of autonomy employees have, the quality of communication, and even the broader cultural norms. Is there a pervasive sense of constant urgency? Is there a lack of control over one's work? Is failure punished harshly?
So looking at the system, not just the person.
Exactly. By examining these interconnected elements, an organization can start to create that buffer against burnout. This might involve practical steps, like implementing regular, anonymous employee well-being surveys to gauge stress levels and identify specific hotspots or departments under pressure. It could mean training managers specifically to recognize the signs of stress and burnout in their teams and how to respond supportively, not punitively. And it definitely means fostering an environment where mental health is openly discussed and supported, just like physical health, rather than being swept under the rug as some kind of personal failing. It's about proactive care and system-level intervention, not just relying on reactive individual support after someone is already burnt out.
Okay, moving beyond the day-to-day safety and health concerns, our sources also delve into broader organizational risks like security and business continuity. When we talk about occupational security in this context, what exactly does that entail? Is it just about having security guards at the door and maybe some locked filing cabinets, or is there more to it for you as an employee?
Oh, it's far more comprehensive than just physical access control. Occupational security really encompasses a much broader spectrum. It's about protecting all of an organization's assets, its people, its property, its sensitive information from a whole variety of potential threats. So yes, it includes robust crime prevention strategies that could range from implementing rigorous background checks for new hires and maybe visitors, to deploying advanced surveillance systems using access control technologies like keycard entry and strategically designing secure entry points to deter unauthorized access.
So, preventing deliberate harm.
Preventing deliberate harm, yes, but it also extends significantly to comprehensive disaster preparedness, ensuring the organization is ready for both foreseen and unforeseen major events, things like fires, floods, severe weather, or even widespread power outages or cyber attacks. And critically, it involves having effective crisis response plans already in place, plans that outline exactly what steps need to be taken immediately following any incident to protect human life first and foremost, minimize damage to property, and preserve critical information and functions for the business.
What does a good security program look like then? What are the elements?
Well, according to our sources, a good occupational security program involves several key interlinked elements. It always starts with a thorough risk analysis specific to that organization. What are our most valuable assets? What threats are most likely given our industry, our location? What are the vulnerabilities in our current systems? You have to understand your specific risk profile first. Then it moves to installing layered security measures. This is a really crucial concept, creating multiple levels of defense, so if one fails, another is there.
Layers, like
Yeah.
an onion.
Exactly like an onion. You might have mechanical controls, that's your physical locks, reinforced doors, maybe advanced alarm systems. Then natural controls, things like strategic lighting around the building, clear sight lines, landscaping designed to eliminate hiding spots for intruders. And then you have organizational controls. These are your comprehensive policies, detailed procedures like strict visitor sign-in policies or baggage checks, and the presence of trained security personnel, or even just staff who are trained and aware of security protocols and their role in them.
So policies and people are a layer too.
Absolutely. And finally, it requires thoroughly training all staff on all relevant security protocols, from knowing emergency evacuation routes to understanding how to report suspicious activity or what to do in case of an active threat scenario. Security is truly everyone's responsibility in a layered system, and effective training ensures people know their role and how to act decisively to keep themselves and others safe.
What's particularly compelling there is that multi-layered approach you just described. It's really not just about relying on a single lock or a single policy, is it? It's about an integrated system of physical, environmental, and human elements all working together to mitigate threats, like different lines of defense backing each other up.
Precisely. It's about creating redundancy and depth in your protective measures, ensuring that if one layer is somehow breached or fails, others are still there to back it up and prevent a full-scale incident. This integrated system approach recognizes that security threats are complex, they're dynamic, they're multifaceted, so they require a comprehensive and equally dynamic response that covers all angles of vulnerability. It's about building a robust shield around the entire organization, not just reinforcing one small part of the wall.
Okay, and what about the other piece mentioned, business continuity and emergency planning? These sound incredibly critical for any organization, large or small, because disruptions, whether from weather, technology, or something else, seem to be an increasingly common and really impactful part of our modern world.
They are absolutely critical, essential for organizational resilience, maybe even survival, in what feels like an increasingly unpredictable world. Crises like natural disasters, devastating floods, earthquakes, widespread wildfires, even severe snowstorms that just paralyze infrastructure, or man-made incidents like major cyber attacks that cripple IT systems, or even just widespread utility failures like a blackout. These can severely disrupt or even completely halt organizations' operations indefinitely. Meticulous preparation through comprehensive business continuity and emergency planning is really the only way to ensure rapid recovery and minimize the losses when such events inevitably occur. And for you, the employee, this ultimately means minimal disruption to your work and hopefully continued employment stability through the crisis.
So, what goes into a good continuity plan? What are the essential components?
Our sources highlight several essential components. First, clear communication chains are absolutely vital. In a crisis, normal communication might break down. So the plan needs to specify precisely who talks to whom and how. Is there a designated crisis management team? How do you reach employees if traditional channels like email or cell networks are down? Are there pre-approved messages ready for external stakeholders like customers, suppliers, the media? Clarity is key.
Knowing who does what and how to reach them.
Exactly. Second, robust backup systems for data and operations are non-negotiable. And this isn't just about backing up computer files, though that's critical. It could mean having alternate physical facilities lined up for key operations, having redundant power supplies to keep critical systems running during an outage, or having geographically separate off-site data storage to protect against localized disasters like a fire or flood at the main site.
Redundancy seems key here too.
Very much so. Finally, rapid response units are crucial. These are pre-designated teams specifically trained to perform specific crisis actions. Maybe it's a first aid team, a cybersecurity incident response unit, an emergency communications team, or a damage assessment crew. The idea is to have pre-assigned roles, clear training, and established protocols so that in the chaos and stress of a real crisis, people know exactly what their job is and can act decisively and effectively. Our sources even point to readily available government resources, like Ready.gov in the US, as valuable tools to assist organizations in developing these vital plans. So it shows that guidance and support are accessible for businesses of all sizes.
That makes me wonder, though, how often are these meticulously crafted plans actually tested? Because, a detailed plan sitting in binder on a shelf is one thing. A practiced, responsive plan that people actually know how to execute under pressure is another entirely. You can't just write it down and then forget about it, hoping for the best, can you?
You're hitting on a really crucial point there, one that often differentiates the organizations that are truly resilient from those that just falter or even collapse during a crisis. The source material stresses the importance of preparation, which inherently implies active engagement and readiness, not just passive planning. A plan that's never tested is merely a theoretical document, isn't it? It's a box tick on a compliance form, but it doesn't represent genuine capability.
So drills and simulations are necessary.
Absolutely essential. Regular drills, realistic simulations, even just tabletop exercises where you walk through scenarios, these are crucial to ensure that those communication chains actually work under pressure, that backup systems are viable and people know how to access them, and that the rapid response units are proficient and coordinated. These practical tests almost invariably reveal weaknesses or gaps in the plan that just weren't apparent on paper. They allow organizations to refine and improve their response capabilities before a real crisis hits. It's really the difference between knowing how to swim in theory, having read the manual, and actually being able to swim when you're thrown into rough, unpredictable waters. Without testing, a plan is just a hope, not a reliable strategy.
Well, we've talked quite a bit about leadership commitment coming from the top, but let's zoom in now on two really critical roles our sources highlight as foundational to actually executing safety on a daily basis: HR and supervisors. First, what's HR's specific contribution to safety management? It feels like they're involved in so many different parts of the employee experience already. How does safety fit in for them?
HR's role in safety management is absolutely pivotal. It's institutional, meaning it's embedded in the systems and processes, and it permeates the entire employee life cycle, from before someone is even hired until after they leave. It's far more than just handling the administrative paperwork after an incident. It's really about embedding safety from the very first interaction with a potential employee. So it starts right from onboarding. Safety protocols and expectations need to be integrated from day one, not treated as an afterthought, but presented as a core, non-negotiable part of what it means to work here. This includes specific safety orientations, initial training on basic procedures relevant to their role.
Setting the tone from the start.
Exactly. Then, throughout an employee's tenure, HR is often responsible for coordinating or delivering ongoing training, ensuring continuous learning and reinforcement of safety practices as procedures evolve. Maybe new equipment is introduced or new hazards emerge over time. This keeps knowledge current and safe behaviors reinforced. Safety adherence should also, ideally, be incorporated into performance appraisals, making it a measurable aspect of an employee's contribution, just like productivity or quality. Consistent failure to follow safety procedures should have consequences, just as excelling at safety, maybe by identifying hazards or mentoring others, should be recognized.
Making it part of performance.
Yes. And finally, HR plays a key role in designing rewards and recognition systems, aligning incentive structures directly with safety goals, perhaps rewarding teams for proactive safety measures. Not just zero accidents to positively motivate safe behaviors and acknowledge commitment to safety across the board.
So HR isn't just about hiring and firing and benefits. It's really about embedding safety into the very DNA of the company, making it part of the core performance culture and the overall employee experience for you, the employee.
Absolutely. What's particularly compelling here is that this institutional approach means safety isn't just an add-on or a peripheral concern that bubbles up occasionally. It's intrinsically woven into the company culture through comprehensive policies and consistent practices managed by HR. The Hotel Paris case study, which comes up in our sources, illustrates this beautifully. Lisa's HR team at Hotel Paris doesn't treat safety as some separate, isolated department's problem or merely a compliance issue to be managed.
So what do they do differently?
Instead, they demonstrate how to integrate safety directly into the hotel's broader strategic goals. They do this by proactively identifying specific roles within the hotel that carry higher risks, like housekeeping, for instance. That often involves strenuous physical tasks, repetitive motions, exposure to various cleaning chemicals, and sometimes working alone in isolated environments, all of which can lead to injury.
Okay, they identify the risks. Then what?
Once these risks are identified, HR then uses its specific tools and policies to mitigate them effectively. This might include designing specific training programs tailored to ergonomic safety for housekeepers, how to lift properly, how to position carts, etc., ensuring proper training on handling cleaning agents safely, or even working with operations to redesign job tasks and workflows to minimize physical strain and chemical exposure in the first place. The ultimate goal is to improve both safety and service quality simultaneously, proving that safety and operational excellence aren't mutually exclusive goals pulling in opposite directions, but actually mutually reinforcing.
That's a great example. Okay, so that's HR's role. And what about supervisors? They're literally on the ground day to day where the work actually happens. How do they act as safety leaders given their direct proximity to the action?
Supervisors have an absolutely immense, direct, and immediate influence on daily behavior and the immediate work environment. They are the frontline leaders, aren't they? Often the first and sometimes the last line of defense when it comes to safety. Our sources really emphasize that their personal buy-in and their visibly demonstrated leadership drive results far more effectively than any poster on the wall or any rulebook sitting on a shelf.
Actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. If a supervisor doesn't genuinely take safety seriously or is seen implicitly or even explicitly condoning shortcuts to get the job done faster, their team will quickly pick up on that. They'll follow suit, regardless of what the official company handbook says. The supervisor's credibility, their consistent example, and their direct reinforcement or lack thereof are incredibly powerful forces that shape frontline behavior and adherence to safety protocols for everyone on their team.
So what are their key responsibilities in this leadership role?
Well, they're essentially twofold, and they're continuous, ongoing responsibilities. First, they absolutely must actively model safe practices themselves. This means they have to consistently and visibly follow all safety procedures, wear the appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, like hard hats or safety glasses when required, participate actively in safety discussions and meetings, and just generally demonstrate a genuine commitment to safety in every single action they take. They have to lead by example, setting the standard for their team. Second, they must consistently and fairly enforce safety practices. This involves immediately correcting unsafe behaviors when they're observed doing it constructively, not just yelling, providing specific feedback on both safe and unsafe acts, reinforcing correct procedures through coaching and reminders, in ensuring all team members understand not only the procedures, but also the potential consequences of non-compliance, both for themselves and for others.
So they're the ones making it real on the floor.
They're the ones who can intervene right when they see someone taking a risky shortcut or failing to use a required safety device. They can make those real-time adjustments and reinforce the safety culture in the moment. Their direct involvement is absolutely paramount for ensuring frontline adherence and maintaining a truly effective, dynamic safety program.
That makes me wonder, though, what happens when supervisors don't buy in? Or maybe they feel pressured by other organizational metrics like hitting production quotas, speed, output to prioritize those over safety. It seems like that could be a major potential point of tension or even failure for the whole safety system.
That's a critical vulnerability for any safety program, you're right. And unfortunately, it's a pretty common challenge in many workplaces. The source material strongly implies that if supervisors lack genuine buy-in, or if the organizational culture places undue pressure on them to hit production targets at the expense of safety, for example, if a manager's bonus is solely based on output, with no weighting for safety performance, then the entire safety program risks being seriously undermined.
Because employees watch their supervisor.
Exactly. Frontline employees look to their immediate supervisors for cues on what's truly important in the organization and what behaviors are actually condoned, regardless of official policies. If the supervisor is seen implicitly or explicitly allowing shortcuts, or if they lack the authority, maybe the resources, or even just the training to enforce safety effectively, then employees will quickly perceive safety as secondary, optional, or maybe just something you pay lip service to. This can rapidly lead to underreporting of incidents and near misses, a general decrease in vigilance across the team, and ultimately a significant increase in the risk of accidents and injuries. This really highlights the crucial need for organizations not only to train supervisors thoroughly on safety protocols, but also to actively support them, to empower them with the authority to prioritize safety, even if it means occasionally slowing down production, and crucially, to align their performance incentives so that safety is genuinely prioritized right alongside all other operational goals. The supervisor's critical role needs to be actively supported and valued at an organizational level for safety to truly stick.
We've mentioned culture quite a few times now as a really crucial element in safety. How do you actually create that deep-seated culture of safety? It definitely sounds like a long-term project, not something that happens overnight or, with a single training session or a new poster campaign.
Oh, it absolutely is a long-term project. It requires sustained, consistent, and pervasive effort right across the entire organization, involving everyone. Cultural change isn't a quick fix. It's not a single initiative you can launch and then declare victory. It's an ongoing, iterative evolution that has to touch every aspect of how an organization operates. Our sources outline that it always begins with that unwavering leadership commitment we keep mentioning. And again, this isn't just a memo or a single speech from the CEO. It means leaders actively participating in safety initiatives themselves, visibly championing safety in every communication, consistently allocating the necessary financial and human resources to safety efforts, and prioritizing safety considerations in every strategic decision the company makes.
So commitment from the very top, lived day to day.
Exactly. Then it continues with clear, continuous, and consistent communication of safety expectations and goals throughout the entire organization, ensuring everyone from the executive suite right down to the newest hire on their first day understands what's expected of them regarding safety, why it matters so much, and the inherent value the organization places on it. This cultural shift then involves establishing clear accountability at all levels. This means everyone, from the CEO down to the individual frontline worker, understands their specific role and responsibilities in maintaining safety and is held accountable fairly and consistently for their actions and omissions regarding safety performance.
Accountability at every level.
Every level. Finally, this culture evolves and matures through consistent feedback loops and transparency. This means regularly reviewing safety performance data, not just lagging indicators like accident rates, but leading indicators like near-miss reporting or safety audit findings. Celebrating successes and positive contributions to safety, learning constructively from incidents when they do happen, focusing on systemic root causes without resorting to blame, and openly sharing information about safety performance, both the good and the bad, across the organization. This iterative process commitment, clear communication, shared accountability, and continuous learning through feedback, that's what truly embeds a deep-seated safety mindset into the organizational DNA for you and your colleagues.
One striking point there is that iterative nature of culture change you mentioned. It really isn't a one-off event or a box to tick, is it? It's more like an ongoing process of reinforcement and adaptation based on real-world feedback and experience. So it's never really done, is it? You're always refining it, always working on it.
It's exactly right. A truly robust and mature safety culture is always learning, always improving, always adapting. It's not a static state you achieve and then maintain effortlessly. It has to continuously adapt to new technologies being introduced, new operational processes, emerging risks, new insights gleaned from daily operations, and crucially, from employee feedback. It's a continuous cycle of improvement driven by active engagement from everyone, constant vigilance, and a shared, unwavering commitment to keeping everyone safe. It requires ongoing investment and attention, because the absence of incidents today doesn't guarantee the absence of incidents tomorrow without that sustained effort. Complacency is the enemy.
Okay, and part of that culture often involves incentives. We touched on this briefly. What exactly are behavior-based safety programs, or BBS, and how do incentives play a role in driving and reinforcing those positive safety behaviors we want to see?
Right, behavior-based safety programs, or BBS, are a really critical proactive component in shaping and sustaining safer habits within the workforce. These programs specifically focus on reinforcing positive safety behavior, rather than just reacting to negative outcomes like accidents or injuries after they happen. How do they work? Well, they typically operate by systematically tracking habits. This often means having trained observers, maybe peers, maybe supervisors, routinely observe employees performing tasks to identify both consistently safe practices and any at-risk behaviors they might see.
So observation is key.
Observation, followed by feedback. They provide timely and specific feedback, which is crucial. It's not just a generic good job or be careful. It's specific, like, I noticed you used the lockout procedure exactly as trained before servicing that machine. That was great because it prevents accidental startup. Or maybe, I noticed you weren't wearing your safety glasses in that area. Remember, they're required because of the risk of flying debris. Constructive and specific. And crucially, they often implement systems to reward good practices. The overarching goal is to proactively reduce risky actions by actively shaping and reinforcing safer behavior over time, making safety second nature for everyone involved.
And that's where incentives come in.
Exactly. This is where designing safety incentives and recognition programs comes into play. Incentives, things like individual bonuses for achieving certain safety goals, maybe team bonuses for reaching collective safety milestones, like accident-free days, or maybe non-financial recognition programs like an Employee of the Month award for outstanding safety contributions. These can certainly motivate safe actions. They provide a tangible reward for adhering to safety protocols, for proactively identifying hazards, for consistently contributing to a safer environment. And that encourages the desired set of behaviors.
That sounds great in theory, a good way to motivate people. But what's the catch? Can incentives sometimes go wrong? Can they have unintended negative consequences despite the good intentions behind them?
They absolutely can, and this is a really critical caveat our sources point out. It's something vital for any organization considering incentives to understand very clearly. Poorly designed incentive systems may inadvertently lead to the exact opposite of the desired outcome. They can lead to significant underreporting of incidents.
How does that happen?
Well, if incentives are solely tied to an absence of accidents, or to maintaining a perfect zero-incident safety record, employees might feel immense pressure, either directly from management or subtly from their peers, to not report near misses, minor injuries, or even significant hazards they spot.
Why would they do that?
To avoid jeopardizing a team bonus or individual recognition, or just to avoid spoiling that perceived flawless record. This pressure can be very strong. And this fundamentally undermines the entire safety effort. It creates dangerous blind spots, it hides crucial information about the real risks that exist in the workplace, and it prevents the organization from learning from the incidents and near misses that do occur but go unreported.
So you lose valuable learning opportunities.
Exactly. The key, therefore, is to find a very delicate balance between motivating safe actions and ensuring complete honesty and transparency in reporting. It's tricky. It's really about designing incentives carefully. Maybe rewarding safe actions observed or rewarding proactive behaviors like hazard reporting or participation in safety committees, and especially rewarding the reporting of incidents and near misses, treating that as a positive contribution, rather than just rewarding the absence of reported incidents. This fosters a culture of openness, learning, and continuous improvement, rather than potentially creating one of fear, concealment, and false assurance based on incomplete data.
Okay, so we started this whole conversation by talking about safety as a core managerial priority. Let's try and bring it all together now. How does safety truly integrate with an organization's broader strategic goals? It sounds like it's not just an operational detail tucked away somewhere, but actually a piece of a much larger, much more vital puzzle for overall success.
It is absolutely a foundational piece. It's inextricably linked to long-term organizational success, not merely some siloed operational detail managed by one department. Our sources make it abundantly clear that safety isn't just an operational concern confined to, say, the safety department or the factory floor. It is a strategic enabler. It's intrinsically tied into an organization's overall success across multiple critical dimensions. It really serves as a pillar that supports and enhances other strategic objectives.
Can you break that down? How does it support other goals?
Sure. First, think about its direct impact on cost management. We touched on this earlier. Fewer accidents directly translate to significantly lower insurance premiums, reduced workers' compensation claims, substantial savings from reduced downtime needed for incident investigations, cleanup, equipment repairs. There's also less exposure to potential legal liability, fewer potential fines from regulatory bodies, and you avoid the significant costs associated with recruiting and training replacements for injured employees. That's a direct bottom-line impact.
Okay, cost is a big one. What else?
Second, a strong, visible safety record dramatically enhances brand reputation. Companies known for consistently prioritizing employee well-being and maintaining a safe environment are simply seen as more responsible, more ethical, more trustworthy by the public, by customers, by potential investors. This positive public image can attract both loyal customers who value ethical businesses and, crucially, top-tier talent in a competitive labor market. People want to work for companies that care about them.
Right. It becomes an attractor for talent.
Definitely. And third, and perhaps most profoundly for the internal dynamic, a safe workplace fosters deep trust, loyalty, and significantly higher morale among employees. We talked about engagement earlier. When people feel genuinely valued, protected, and confident that their employer truly cares about their well-being, not just about profits, they are naturally more engaged, they're more productive, and they are demonstrably more likely to stay with the company long-term. This reduces costly turnover and helps preserve valuable institutional knowledge.
So it's really not a separate silo or just a compliance burden you have to deal with. It's actually a fundamental value-generating part of how a business thrives and succeeds in the long run. It seems woven into the very fabric of sustainable success for you and your company.
Absolutely. Looking at the overall landscape, aligning safety directly with the company's overarching vision and its key performance indicators, KPIs, the critical metrics that define strategic success for that specific business, that alignment gives safety long-term relevance. It ensures it's consistently prioritized, not just during audits or right after a major accident when everyone's paying attention. When safety metrics, things like incident rates, maybe leading indicators like near-miss reporting frequency or safety training completion rates, when those are on the same executive dashboard right alongside financial performance, sales figures, or customer satisfaction scores, it unequivocally signals its strategic importance to everyone in the organization.
It puts it on par with other critical business metrics.
Precisely. The summary and takeaways section in the source material explicitly states that a proactive approach to safety, one that anticipates risks, integrates safety thinking into all processes, and builds a robust culture of prevention, pays off immensely. It leads directly to fewer incidents, yes, but also to healthier and more engaged teams, and ultimately, unequivocally better overall organizational performance across pretty much all metrics. It becomes a powerful virtuous cycle. Safety drives success, and that success allows for further investment back into safety. Hashtag outro.
So after all that, what does this all mean for you listening? This deep dive has hopefully shown us that workplace safety, health, and risk management are far more complex and, frankly, far more integral than simply following a checklist or wearing the right gear. It's a really vibrant, dynamic, and absolutely essential aspect of any thriving organization.
Yeah, it truly is everyone's responsibility. It requires that structure we talked about, the right culture, and genuine care. It spans everything from the foundational laws and the proactive leadership of executives right down to the daily vigilance of supervisors and every single frontline worker doing the job. It's really a continuous journey, isn't it? A journey of understanding, commitment, and evolution, constantly adapting to new challenges and fostering a genuine culture of well-being for all.
And so, the provocative thought for you to mull over as we finish. If safety is truly everyone's responsibility, how does your own role, no matter how big or small you feel it is, contribute to the safety culture where you work or operate? How can you empower yourself and maybe others around you to be more proactive, to go beyond just adhering to the minimum rules? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. See you later. Bye-bye.